there's this phase of creating something new in our lives when we actually are drawing from an old intention or an old pattern, an old way of being, and our new intention, our new way of being. And even though, you may have worked hard to let go of that old pattern and that old way of being, sometimes it takes a little while to shake it out of your system, And so there gets to be a phase in the creation process that, you maybe even you're unconsciously creating from your old pattern, and also you've got a new intention, a new way of being. So what happens is, as I've talked about before, like when you put out an intention, in this case, two different intentions, although, maybe not on purpose, but then it will create doorways for those things. It will create things. It will attract things too. The old intention is going to attract old scenarios and old people and old patterns, and the new intention is going to attract new things, new people, new ways of being. And so of course the trick is discerning which is which. And my teacher used to say, when you're in a new space, first, often the first thing you encounter is your old pattern, because you're familiar with it and you see it quicker. They may both be there, both, doorways and new things may be there as well as the old, but you're going to notice, the old first, most likely. Maybe not. It depends on the order of how things come, for sure. But, so often the first things you encounter is often your old pattern. And so you may have to pass and just saying, that's comfortable. That's nice. That's an opportunity for sure. But, I think I'm going to pass on that, and I'm going to hold out for something new. I'm not going to, sometimes it feels like sometimes in relationships, we talk about not settling. Like the first someone comes along, they're very comfortable, we feel like this connection with them, but what kind of connection is? But, we feel this connection, and so it's like, all right, they like me, I like them, there's attraction, we have a lot in common. Yes, let's do this, and it's like, and there's always part of us that's wondering, will I meet someone new, and will the new thing come? Whether it's relationship or something else in our life, like, will the new thing, it's like, I don't know if that new thing's gonna come. Here's this thing, I know it works, I'm comfortable with it, I'm just gonna take this. I'm gonna accept this and relate to this person or this thing. And it's the same thing with connection. It's like you may feel that connection, but what I always say with relationship and with the new things we create is like the discernment is, what is the nature of this connection? What is the nature of this new thing that's coming in? And maybe it feels like a connection, but maybe it's an old type of connection, or maybe it's a new connection. We're going to be a little more comfortable and familiar with the old type of connection. It may feel more of a lot more, it just feels safer. And the new connection, as cool as it is, it might feel a little weird, and we're like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing with this. I don't know what to do with this person or this new thing. It just is, I feel off my game. I'm not comfortable, so there's almost this bias toward the old thing. And that's how our old patterns keep recreating. That's how karma, recreates itself over and over again. So there's this phase, and it's right about now in the medicine wheel. This time of year, we put out, hopefully you offered a new intention, thought about what you wanted to create in your life this year in the spring. And so right about now, doorways should be, starting to come to you, starting to open for you, and things are starting to come. You're attracting things and people into your life, and it's going to be this mixture. And so it's really good to use, what is the nature of the connection? Does this feel like an old type of relating pattern, an old connection, or does this feel new? And like, am I unfamiliar with it? Does it feel really weird and vulnerable and unknown? And maybe I should, pass on the familiar and make room for the new and the unfamiliar, even if it's a little feeling uneasy to you. So I'll give you an example of my own life. Some of you may know, I bet a good time to catch you up on my life. I just moved from Bend, Oregon to Ashland, Oregon. Okay, and I got this job, in Medford, and then I had to find a place. Well, Ashland is challenging, especially this time of year, to find a place. And I had a cat, so I'm finding a rental. Okay, I'm not ready to buy, so I'm finding a rental. And I wanted this very specific thing. I wanted the kind of like a single, like an actual home, a residence. I didn't want a condominium or a duplex. I wanted a home. And so they were kind of, few and far between. So I'm on like scanning all the property management websites several times a day, actually. And then when one came along, I'd put an offer in. So I put a couple of offers. I drove over to Ashland to look at a few places. And this one place was great. And it worked. Okay. And it was, it was kind of funky. But it was really cool. It had a nice little backyard. But it was, it was in a neighborhood that was kind of funky too. It's kind of a mixed neighborhood. And I'm being generous when I say mixed neighborhood. I'm sure there were some cool people, but it was a lot like, there's a guy, he's like working on his car, which is like exactly like the neighborhood I just left. There was a little too much traffic for the cat, but it would work. And it's like, I now accepted this job. I have and I'm not finding many places. So it's like, okay, I better take this place. So, I say, okay, I want this place. I tell them that. And thankfully, as it turns out, there was a challenge with that. They were redoing the hardwood floor in the living room, and they couldn't get a hold of the owner. So there was a delay, and they said, well, it might not be ready in time by the time, June 1st. It might not be ready by June 1st. So I was like, damn, that's not good. So it's like, so then by the end of the week, it was like Friday, 2 weeks ago. It's like 2 weeks before I'm ready to move. Okay, and it's that Friday. I don't remember the date. And then finally, it's like, okay, it's gonna be ready by June 1st. So it's like, I'm like, whew, because at this point, I'm in kind of desperation mode. It's like, and my old beliefs are telling me, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna find a place. Maybe living out of a motel while I start my job. And, I'm going all these scenarios in my mind, right? And so it's like, okay, I better take this place. And it's now too close, so a new one won't come along, is what I told myself. So that Friday, I have the call, and they say, you're good. We'll call you next Monday. We'll call you on Monday, and we'll get it all set up. So I'm like, cool. So I go into the weekend. I stop looking for places, and it's like, I'm just going to focus on packing, and it's like, I'm good. So, Saturday, Sunday, I'm packing my stuff. I'm like, okay, I feel relief, but I'm still a little on edge because I haven't signed a lease yet, right? I'm a little nervous, and it comes along Monday. I'm at work, at the hospital at work, and in Bend, and my friend Nick comes by, and so I'm telling him. Nick's also thinking I'm moving, so we're like swap stories, every week about the different places we're looking at and stuff. And he's like, I don't know. He goes, what they were supposed to call you this morning. They haven't called. I don't know if this, and he was a little uneasy about it. And so I figured, maybe a plan B would be good. So I get on and I check my property management, and there's nothing really there. I go to all I had like 6 of them, and I would check them all to see if new properties came online. And then there was this other one that I didn't check much anymore because, it wasn't really, it really didn't have much. And so anyway, I checked it, and sure enough, there's this new place, and it is nice. I could tell right away. It's nice. It had like a 3-bedroom, you could see it was in a nice neighborhood. It had a 2-car garage. The other one didn't have a garage. It was a funky situation. And so I'm like, so I put it in, I call them up, I put in the application first, I call them up and they say, yeah, we're showing it at 4 o'clock today. I'm like, oh, damn, I missed my opportunity. And long story short, okay, is that the next day, the person that saw it at 4 o'clock turned it down and I was number 2 in line. And I ended up taking the new place, and the new place was way nicer. I'm in it now. This is the new place, and it's a nice neighborhood. It's a nicer place than I've ever lived in. It's like I almost don't know what to do. I'm like in such a nice house. It's like, wow, this is a nice house, nice neighborhood. The neighborhood welcomed me. They had this really cool community, where the other one was funky. So, here it was like I got a little help from the universe by maybe the other one not coming through fast enough or whatever else. I might not have turned that old one down. But here's a perfect example of there's the old pattern, and I took the old pattern because it was safe. And it looks like we're going to have a kitty there joining me on the blog today. And the kitty's a little insecure with the new place. So anyway, this is Porter the cat. And so, that's just as a story about like you're drawing. I had 2 intentions, right? I had my old way of intention and my funky, yeah, I like it, that, and then I had the nice new community, nice new neighborhood. And they cost the same, by the way. They were the same cost. Way nicer home, way nicer neighborhood, same cost, And so that's my example. And also a little bit about me. I now live in Ashland in my nice home, and I couldn't be happier. And I'm so grateful that I didn't settle for the comfortable thing. So that is my video for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy your week and maybe think about the 2 different the 2 different doorways, the 2 different types of doorways that might be opening to you, and maybe find some discernment in like, what is the nature of this connection? What is the nature of this doorway? Does this feel like my old pattern, or does this feel like something new? And maybe make room for something new. So anyway, I will see you in a week.